You don't look like someone about to change their entire future, Edward Kingston teased, lifting his crystal glass in my direction. The taste of champagne hung in the air, bright and fizzy, as laughter circled the private dining room at Le Pavillon, the most coveted restaurant in Boston. Around me, the faces of investors radiated satisfaction. My parents, beaming with pride, sat near the head of the table, eyes shining with hope, relief, maybe even awe. I felt a strange mix of joy and disbelief. After endless negotiations, I had just secured an $8 million investment to take my family's specialty food company, Sinclair Fine Provisions, nationwide. This wasn't just a business deal. It was a lifeline, a ticket to everything I'd been working toward for so long. Those sparkling glasses, those well-dressed strangers celebrating our exciting new chapter, felt both surreal and hard-won. I'm Ava Sinclair. 8 years ago, I walked away from a flourishing corporate finance career, the kind where people rarely quit, and especially not people like me. At the time, my family's gourmet shop, just a single storefront in Cambridge, was weeks from bankruptcy. People told me I was reckless. My boss had looked at me like I'd sprouted a second head when I announced I was leaving. Corporate finance to sell fancy jam? She'd gasped. Even my brother Austin, still in college then, had questioned my sanity. It's over, Ava. Don't burn yourself out for a sinking ship. Let them retire. But I couldn't turn my back on the legacy my parents built. I still remember standing behind the shop counter as a child, watching my mother carefully package jars of lemon curd, my father greeting every loyal customer by name. Hard times or not, I'd seen something that everyone else missed. Possibility. The evening celebration whirled on. My former professor and mentor, Dr. Vivian Carter, the one who introduced me to these investors, reached across the table, her eyes crinkling with pride. Ava, you've taken this little shop and created something remarkable. National distribution, a subscription model, retail partnerships. You've rewritten the rules. Praise swelled around me, but underneath my glow, a seed of anxiety took root. Every milestone replayed in my mind, obsessively rebuilding our product line, haggling with suppliers for every discount, designing marketing strategies alone late at night. Sinclair Fine Provisions had evolved from a beloved local treasure into a fast-growing national brand. Our specialties were now shipped to 48 states, but the path had been brutal. At that moment, my father raised his glass. None of this, he declared, would have happened without Ava's vision. There was that word again. Vision. I drank it in, but something in my mother's eyes made me pause. Her smile flickered just enough for me to notice, and then she squeezed my hand gently under the table. Her perfume enveloped me as she whispered, "This is all so wonderful. But remember, when Austin gets back from his program, he'll be ready to take over as CEO. He's trained for this level of scale." I felt my chest tighten. Austin, the golden child, off studying business abroad, barely replying to emails, while I was scraping through 18-hour days, keeping this business alive. Still, I kept my expression bright, even as the old chill of disappointment snuck into my veins. 8 years of sweat, skipped vacations, dreams postponed. Yet my role still felt temporary in my parents' eyes, just a placekeeper for Austin's birthright. Edward Kingston, sensing the tension across the table, leaned in. "Everything all right here?" I laughed lightly, raising my glass higher, unwilling to let the moment slip. "Everything's perfect," I assured him. But my mind was whirring, planning already. Monday morning could not come soon enough. Amid the celebration, my thoughts turned back to the moment everything changed. I'd been a rising star at a big-name investment firm when my father called. His voice weighted with defeat. "Ava, we're about to lose the shop." 3 months left, unless something drastic happens. The recession had ground down our luxury goods business. A second location was a financial anchor we couldn't lift. I can still remember colleagues' disbelief as I explained why I was leaving. You're serious? Walking away from finance for jam? My brother, too, thought I'd lost it. Face it, Ava. Let it go. Don't make it your problem. But I refused to back down. This wasn't just a shop. It was our family's dream, a piece of ourselves. I was determined to save it, even if no one else believed I could. The first 2 years were nothing short of relentless. I manned the counter by day, mopping floors, blending jam, and welcoming each customer as if their purchase could save us. At night, it was just me, a rickety laptop, and stacks of bills, endlessly crunching numbers, trying to find a way forward. I sold our second, struggling location to buy us time. I renegotiated contracts with reluctant suppliers, begging for lower rates and longer terms. Desperate for liquidity, I took out a second mortgage on my condo, plunging deeper into personal debt so Sinclair Fine Provisions could have a chance. I remember the long, lonely nights sleeping on a cot in our tiny stockroom, the concrete floor hard and unyielding beneath me. Sometimes the sound of passing delivery trucks would jolt me awake, and for a split second, I'd panic, wondering if morning would bring another shut-off notice or an eviction warning on the door. Meanwhile, Austin was busy carving out his own future. He landed an entry-level consulting job after undergrad, throwing himself into a world of business trips and late-night work dinners. On rare weekends home, he'd stride through the shop dispensing advice, but never sticking around long enough to see the mess beneath the surface. My parents never seemed to notice his absence. If anything, they'd praise his ambition, constantly reminding me how Austin's experience would someday benefit the company, as if I was just holding down the fort until their real hope returned. But while they dreamed of the prodigal son, I was busy transforming our survival story. I reimagined the entire product line, introduced limited edition preserves, and even landed a shout-out from a popular food blogger whose viral post crashed our website with traffic overnight. I hustled that attention into a subscription box model, delivering curated collections of jams and condiments straight to our new fans' doorsteps each month. Soon we had 20,000 subscribers across the country and were negotiating with national gourmet grocery chains. Over one exhausting but exhilarating year, our revenue leapt 340%. Through all of this, my parents' support was present, but always tinged with that maddening, for now, feeling. My mother thanked me, but her compliments seemed temporary. My father would beam at sales numbers, yet their eyes always flickered back to Austin's future. The shadow of his anticipated return followed me into every investor pitch, every staff meeting, every plan for expansion. Madison? Kingston's voice jolted me back to the present, his question still hanging in the candlelit air. The investors were watching, waiting for me to answer. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I offered a quick, genuine smile, grounding myself in the moment. He wrote something in his notebook. Your operational plan is excellent, he said. But what's your vision for leadership as the company grows? The entire room seemed suddenly silent. My mother tensed beside me, her cool hand on my arm. This was it. The moment I'd been bracing myself for, knowing one day someone would finally ask who was really steering the ship. I spoke carefully, ensuring every word was measured. The leadership structure will stay as it is. I'll continue as CEO, with my parents as brand ambassadors. Their story is the heart of our brand, and I want to honor that just as we scale up. Kingston nodded, jotting more notes. And your brother? He asked. Your mother said he's finishing his MBA and will be joining soon. Before I could answer, my mother's voice replaced mine. Austin just completed his executive MBA at London Business School. He'll be joining leadership next month, bringing his fresh consulting expertise. I clenched my jaw but kept my face neutral. The sting was familiar. Austin had barely set foot in the business for years, yet his credentials seemed to dazzle my parents more than every dollar of profit I'd helped generate. Kingston and another lead investor, a shrewd woman named Diane Tran, exchanged glances. Something subtle shifted in that moment, a recalculation I recognized instantly from my own years in finance. Mrs. Sinclair, Kingston said, lowering his voice, our investment is based primarily on Ava's record and her vision. Any changes to leadership after we invest would need to be discussed. My mother looked startled, as if the possibility of the investors backing me, not just the family, had never occurred to her. My father coughed, uncomfortable, but trying his best to smooth things over. Of course. We are all on board. We're just proud to have both our children involved. The conversation drifted into safer territory, but my nerves remained electric, braced for aftershocks. As the plates were cleared and the laughter softened, I saw Kingston speaking quietly to his team. Their words were hushed, their expression suddenly serious, scanning between my mother, my father, and me. When the last glass of champagne was emptied, Kingston shook my hand with unusual firmness and leaned in. Let's connect first thing Monday, just the two of us. A flutter ran through my chest, that familiar cocktail of anticipation and dread. My parents, still beaming and oblivious, chatted away in the town car as we wound through the city streets toward home. They talked about all the projects Austin would lead, how exciting it was that their son would drive the business into the future. The way my mother's face lit up as she relayed Austin's bright ideas was almost painful to watch. Outside the window, Boston's lights smeared gold and blue across the glass. My mind raced. A plan was already taking shape. That night, sleep evaded me. By sunrise, I was at my desk in Sinclair Fine Provisions headquarters. Papers and spreadsheets crowding every inch. The only company I had the entire morning was the cleaning crew, blinking in surprise to find me working, yet again, on a weekend. Ms. Sinclair, all good? Asked Jorge, our aging head of maintenance. His question held genuine worry, the kind only long-term loyalty brings. Just getting ready for a big meeting, Jorge. Maybe the most important one yet. I didn't look up, hands flying over my laptop's keyboard. As soon as Jorge left, I stared at my phone for a long moment, wrestling with doubt and family loyalty. Then I called the one person whose opinion I truly trusted outside the business. Ava? It's not even 7 a.m. on a Saturday. What's on fire? The familiar croak of Dr. Vivian Carter's voice, even half asleep, bolstered my courage. I need your advice, I began, wasting no time, and probably your help. By 8, Vivian arrived with 2 coffees and her unstoppable energy. After I poured out the situation, she regarded me for a tense, searching moment. You've been waiting for this test your whole life, she finally said. But tell me, what do you actually want, Ava? Her question cut through all the noise. For so long, I thought all I needed was to save the business, to prove I could do it. But in that moment, clarity dawned. I want what I've earned. I want my family to acknowledge what I've built, not let it be swept away because Austin walks in with a new title. Vivian set down her coffee with finality. Then let's prepare. You're not as alone as you think. It was like someone flipped a switch inside me. By noon that day, I'd rallied my core team, the employees who'd sweated through those bleak years with me. I called Daphne in marketing, Jason from operations, Tamara from product development, and asked them to drop everything for an emergency strategy session. These were more than co-workers. They were allies. They didn't blink, didn't ask questions. They just said, "We're on our way." Meanwhile, my parents left voicemail after voicemail, eager to discuss all the ideas Austin had messaged them for the company's future. I let the notifications accumulate, barely glancing at them. This weekend, for once, wasn't about Austin or my parents. It was about the survival of my own hard-won legacy. Sunday morning arrived in a fog of exhaustion. I had slept little, driven by adrenaline and fear, running new scenarios until the numbers blurred. At precisely 9, Kingston and the Meridian Capital team arrived, briefcases in hand, eyes sharp with skepticism. He cut straight to the chase, bypassing small talk. Ava, something happened at that dinner that raised concerns. We need absolute clarity before moving forward. I slid folders across the table for each investor. Page 1 is the existing Sinclair Fine Provisions leadership chart. Page 2 is what it could look like if my parents get their way after your investment. The second chart was a painful prediction. Austin as CEO, my title downgraded to some vague creative role with no real authority. Kingston's jaw tightened. This isn't the structure we discussed. No, I answered, my voice icy but honest. But it's the underlying plan in my family, no matter how hard I work or what I accomplish. Austin's always been the presumed future. Diane Tran flipped to the third page. And this? My counterproposal? I inhaled, my resolve flooding back in the silence. A new company, separate from my parents and the Sinclair name. You redirect your investment, and I'll show you exactly why it works. The room seemed to freeze. I could feel the weight of every gaze as I clicked through a presentation I'd prepared as the sun rose, heart thumping. Let me show you what the numbers say, I continued, steady and clear. Our brand isn't just a family name. What customers connect with are the innovations, the partnerships, the sense of community, the sustainability programs. All of those are initiatives I personally drove and expanded. The data is right here. Double-digit subscriber growth, national retail contracts, and testimonials from customers and partners who know this company through me. The Meridian team flipped through the documents, quiet except for the rustle of paper. But what about your manufacturing agreements? Diane Tran asked, eyes narrowing. Wouldn't you be starting over? I shook my head, confidence finally rising above my nerves. Our 3 core manufacturers all have contracts due for negotiation next quarter. I'm the one who managed those relationships for years. They know who truly leads this business. If I move on, they'll follow. I've already checked where they stand. For the next hour, I laid out every detail of my contingency plan, market validation, financial projections, product pipeline, even staff loyalty surveys I'd quietly conducted. My pitch was simple. The true value wasn't in the Sinclair name. It was in the brand I'd built, the culture, the strategy. It was in me. Kingston closed his folder after 2 hours, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. It's impressive work, he admitted, especially built over a weekend. But I suspect you've been sitting on this plan for some time, just in case. I nodded. 3 years. The difference in the way my family treats Austin. It's always been clear to me. I knew there might come a day when I'd have to walk away, even if I didn't want to. He exchanged a meaningful glance with Diane before folding his hands. Ava, our belief in this investment is rooted in what you've achieved. The Sinclair legacy has its value, but you're the visionary. We'll have to do due diligence, but I want to pursue your proposal, with some added protections for everyone's interests. A wave of relief washed through me, mingled with a pang of sadness. Thank you. I was ready to start from scratch if I had to. It's just... family complicates everything. Kingston's tone softened. One thing, before we finalize, you need to sit down with your parents. Tell them the full story. They deserve to know exactly what they stand to lose. The thought made my stomach twist, but I nodded. I'll talk to them. Tonight. After the investors left, I called the emergency meeting with Daphne, Jason, Tamara, and the handful of others I trusted most. I laid out the entire situation, the challenge from my family, my counter-proposal, the potential for a brand new company. This was the first time they'd heard what I'd been quietly preparing, and I wasn't sure how they'd react. Daphne leaned forward, smile sly. Honestly, I always figured you had an escape route. The way your parents act about Austin? We all saw this coming, Ava. Jason nodded. We work with you, not with some abstract idea of Sinclair. You started the rebuilding, not your brother. If you move, I'll go with you. No hesitation. Tamara chimed in next, her voice decisive. We've actually talked about this privately. Especially after the last investor call, everybody saw how your mom pushed Austin's return like he built the company. We said, if the choice came down to you or the old guard, we're Team Ava. Every time. Shock blinked through me, quickly replaced by gratitude. As the others voiced their agreement, hope solidified into determination. These weren't just employees. They were my army, my family in every way that truly mattered. That evening, I drove to my parents' house, rehearsing every word in my mind. For years, I tried to win their praise, only to be met with polite applause and a silent expectation that I'd eventually make way for Austin. Now, forced by circumstance, I could finally speak with complete honesty. Inside, the tension was palpable from the moment I walked in. Both of them were waiting in the living room, my mother perched upright on the sofa, my father with tired eyes behind his glasses. "Ava, what's going on?" My mom challenged, her voice tight. "The investors want a change in leadership?" I sat, feeling oddly calm. "The investors believe in what I've built, not in appearances. They've seen the numbers, the strategy, the execution. If you don't recognize that, the money goes elsewhere. I'll take my team and my plans and start fresh." Shock sparked in my father's eyes. "Ava, don't talk like that. This is a family legacy. We always pictured you and Austin working together." Working together? I tried and failed to disguise the edge in my voice. For 8 years, I did every thankless thing. Slept on the storeroom floor, handled payroll, survived months without a salary. Austin never helped, and you never complained. If you wanted an heir, you could have just said so years ago. My mother's face flickered with confusion, then hardened. Austin brings something unique. He's always had the best business mind. I laughed, bitter. Based on what? A couple of consulting jobs he quit, his MBA that I paid for, while investing every dollar back into this company? My father flinched at the accusation. "Ava, please, tradition matters. Austin is the eldest. I've grown the business by 3,000%, landed national partnerships, signed an $8 million investment you wouldn't have found without me. But none of that counts?" Silence crashed down. It was so heavy, it hurt. What matters now is what you want. Keep denying what's clear, and I'll take everything I've built and walk away in the morning. The investors back me. Think about that tonight. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Above the mantel, a faded family photo looked back at us. Austin grinning at the center, me off on the side. For years I'd ignored that truth. Now I couldn't unsee it. That night, I didn't sleep. Dawn crept cold and blue across my bedroom window. Today, everything would change. Monday morning broke crisp and bright, and with it came a new clarity that flooded every cell of my body. I reached the Sinclair Fine Provisions office just after 7, hours before the city's usual hum. My plan was set. I needed time alone, to prepare, to anchor myself for what I sensed could be the most pivotal day of my career. To my surprise, I wasn't the first one in. As I stepped through the double glass doors, I spotted Daphne, Jason, Tamara, and nearly a dozen other key employees already gathered in the kitchen area, sipping coffee. The mood was electric, a little tense, yet fiercely loyal. Their presence, silent but united, almost unmanned me. "What are you all doing here this early?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Daphne's eyes sparkled with quiet determination. "We want you to know you're not alone. Whatever happens today, Ava, we're with you." That simple gesture almost shattered the composure I'd spent all night reinforcing. I managed a tight, grateful nod, excusing myself to the sanctuary of my office to go over my notes one last time. Their support was a shield I wrapped around myself as the clock ticked down. At exactly 8:30, my parents entered the building, expressions steely, but resolved. My mother wore her best navy suit, hair perfectly arranged, clutching a portfolio like a shield. My father, usually upbeat, looked haunted by the strain of last night's confrontation. The tension between them was as thick as chilled honey. Just minutes later, Austin breezed in, every bit the prodigal son, smiling confidently in a new suit, offering hearty handshakes to employees whose names he barely remembered. He talked in booming tones about taking the helm, already acting as though the last 8 years had all been in preparation for this very moment. My mother, radiant with pride, paraded him through the office, introducing him as the future of the company. I took in the show from behind the glass wall of my office, a strange calm settling over me. All the months and years of invisibility and frustration compressed into this single test. Soon the truth would be out in the open for everyone to see. At precisely 9 o'clock, the elevator chimed, and in walked Edward Kingston, flanked by his team and 2 attorneys from Meridian Capital. The dynamic of the entire workspace shifted on a dime. You could feel every person's attention prickling with awareness. My mother hurried to greet the investors with an outstretched hand and a flawless smile. "Mr. Kingston, we're simply delighted you're here. Allow me to introduce my son, Austin," Kingston interrupted gently, but undeniably firmly. "Actually, Mrs. Sinclair, we're here to meet with Ava. But I do think this conversation will benefit from everyone's participation. Shall we step into the conference room?" And so, the reckoning began. We assembled, the company's entire future crackling in the air. My parents and Austin took one side of the long conference table, Kingston and his investors the other, with me at the head. Every chair filled with expectation, anxiety, and the weight of years, of dreams, slights, and silent competitions no one would admit out loud. Kingston set his briefcase on the table, with deliberate calm, and unfolded a stack of documents. "Before we begin, I'd like to clarify something crucial to this partnership. Meridian's investment was approved on the strength of Ava's leadership, strategic record, and her vision for this business. Our due diligence focused on her track record, her decisions, and the team she has built." Austin shifted, a flicker of discomfort crossing his features. My mother's expression froze, her smile rigid, eyes darting from face to face. Kingston continued, his tone measured. "Since our Friday dinner and the subsequent conversations, it's become clear there may be some misunderstanding regarding future leadership of Sinclair Fine Provisions." My father cleared his throat, trying to salvage the moment. "From our perspective, we always envisioned this business as a family affair, with space for both our children's unique strengths." But before he could finish, Diane Tran broke in, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard. "With respect, Mr. Sinclair, our agreement and the value we see are tied directly to Ava's ongoing leadership.